Welcome to another lecture of Fundamentals of Computational Biology. Today we are going to look into more details about biological models. So first let me talk about what is a model. A model is a simplified version or simulation of any real world object, system, processes or concept. It helps us understand the complex idea by breaking them into manageable parts and highlight the key features. Models can be physical, conceptual, mathematical in nature depending upon the context. Let me talk about its importance in science. The models are essential tools in the scientific inquiry and explorations. They enable scientists to test the hypothesis, make predictions, and understand the phenomena that may be too complex or increasingly very difficult to study directly. The models bridge the gap between the theory, observations, and allow us to make sense of the natural world. By manipulating and experimenting with the models, scientists can gain insight how different variables interact and influence the outcomes. Let me give a brief introduction about biological models. Now, the biological models in the field of biology are very essential. They are used to represent the biological structure, process and interactions. These models helps us visualizing the study of intricate biological phenomena that occurs in various scale depending from molecular level to a ecosystem. Now, biological models provide a tangible way to study and explore the living organism and their functions. They allow scientists to conduct experiments, make predictions, and analyze the outcomes without the need of live objects such as mice, rats, frog, etc. Biological models aids in the development of new treatment technologies and strategies to address the challenges in the medicine, agriculture and environmental aspects. Now let me talk about these types of models. Now there can be physical models. Physical models are like miniature version of real things that you can touch and hold. They helps us to see the things actually look like, how they might work in real life. For example, a simple toy car. Imagine you have a simple toy car. It's a physical model of a real car. You can roll around it, you can open its door and see the movement and the acceleration that taking place inside a real car. Another example could be a volcano model. A volcano model. In the chemistry lab, you can actually create a volcano model and see what is the different form of flow that is taking place inside a volcano. Now, there are conceptual models. These conceptual models are like pictures. They show different ideas, different things, how they are connected and how you can predict their outcomes. Now, an example of this kind of category is an example like food pyramid. Think of a triangle with different layer. This is a picture that shows how the foods are good for our bodies and how much of these we can eat. And also the ecosystem diagram. You can see how the trees, animals, microorganism and the higher level animals are connected with each other. Now there can be mathematical models as well. Mathematical models use numbers and specialized equation to explain things. They are like tools that helps us predict what happens in the future. Now example of this is falling object model. Let's say you drop a ball from a height. Scientists use math figure to show how fast this ball will fall or how long it will take to reach the ground. This helps engineers design things like parachutes that make a falling very safe. Another example is population growth model. Imagine you have a group of rabbits. Maths helps us study how these baby rabbits populate. We are taking into account of their birth rate, their death rate, etc. Now let me talk about biological models. When I say biological models, we are diving into the fascinating world where scientists use creative tools and explore and understand the life around us, just like building a puzzle or playing with toys. Biological model helps us unlock the secrets of living things from tiny cell to a vast ecosystem. In biology, models are like specialized glasses that helps us see things that we can't visualize with our naked eyes. These models gave us a close-up look at the tiniest part of organism, how they work together and how life functions as a whole. It's like living inside a secret map to the invisible world of nature. Imagine you have a jigsaw puzzle with the pieces that represent different parts of a cell, just like nucleus, mitochondria, cell membrane, etc. As you put together the puzzle together, you start seeing things how the different parts fits and work together, just like how scientists used to model to piece together the puzzle of life. Models helps us understanding the things that are too small to see, like how these molecules interact with each other inside a cell. Imagine building a tiny model of protein folding into its shape. This helps us to see how this protein functions, and analyzing this functioning, their shape is very essential. Just like an architect creates a blueprint before building a house, scientists use models to plan their experiments. Biological models are like magic windows into the hidden realms of life. They offer scientists and researchers incredible benefits that helps them to the amazing discovery of real world problem. Imagine you are playing a video game where you explore the virtual rainforest. Biological models are like these games. They let scientists explore different scenarios before actually performing these experiments, and this saves a lot of time and lot of resources. Models help scientists to predict what happened in real life. For example, creating a model of how disease spread. We have recently seen the case of COVID-19. There are scientists who have accurately predicted the spread of these diseases. Biological models also help scientists to test their idea and see if they are right. Now let me talk about different levels of biological models. As we journey into the realm of biological models, we will explore the different level of complexity to the tiniest building block to the entire cellular model. First, let me talk about molecular models. Imagine you have a set of colorful building blocks. Each block represents an atom, the tiniest particle of matter that we know. Scientists use these blocks to create models of molecules which are like natural Legos structures. For instance, think of water. It's made up of two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atoms. By arranging these atoms according to the what water structure look like, you can easily see the structural part of a molecule. Atoms are like tiny puzzle of pieces that make up everything around us. Models of atom and molecules helps us see how they bond and interact. For example, building a molecular model of DNA double helix structure to show how genes carry these informations. Now, let us jump into the cellular models. Now, cells are like building blocks of life. They are just like bricks that made up a wall. Scientists use models to understand the structure inside a cell. Cells are like tiny factories with different parts that work together. Models of cell helps us understand how these parts functions. Imagine building a cellular model with the organelles like nucleus, mitochondria and other organelles. Picture a puzzle with the pieces representing a cellular part, just like the organelles which I have just now explained to you. By putting these pieces together, we can learn how cell functions, grow and stay healthy. By making models of cells, scientists discovered how disease affects them and how new medicines can help to cure these diseases. Now let us discuss the organism level models, investigating the whole organism. It's like a step back and look the bigger picture, a whole organism. Imagine creating a detailed model of a plant, animal or even a human being. These models helps to study how different parts work together. Think of a dollhouse where each room represent a part of a human body. By peering into these miniature worlds, we learn how digestion, circulation, and other amazing processes happen. Organisms are living beings that is made up of a lot of cells. Creating models of a whole organism helps us understand how they survive and thrive. Imagine constructing a model of a flower to learn how pollination and the plant growth takes place. These models help scientists to study how animals breathe, move, or even adapt to their environment. It's like having a mini zoo or a garden that teaches us about the wonders of life on earth. If I talk about a cellular model, it will be incomplete without talking about cellular membrane model. So imagine cell as a tiny city that is enclosed by a protective wall. The cell membrane is like a city's gatekeeper, controlling what goes inside and what comes outside. Building models of the cell membrane helps us understand its role. Think of a security checkpost at the airport. The security officers decide what item can enter and leave the airport. Similarly, cell membrane decides which molecules can pass through and communicate with other cells. Now, at the cell organelle level, just like a mitochondria or chloroplast, within the city of a cell there are specialized buildings called as organelles. These organelles have specific job to do, just like energy production or the capturing the sunlight. The models of organelle level helps to understand their functions. Picture mitochondria as a power plant of a cell. They produce energy like a power station generate electricity for the entire city. Chloroplasts on the other hand are like solar panels, converting sunlight into the energy that can be used by plant cells. Now, how these components interact with each other, we can learn with the help of cell signaling pathway models. Cells talk to each other through a secret language called as cell signaling. It's like sending messages to friends using emojis. Models of cell signaling pathway helps us decipher these languages. Imagine you are at a party. Someone waves you to get your attention. That's a signal. Exactly the same way cells interact with each other. Now we have understood how at the cellular level or molecular level these interactions takes place. Now let me talk about when you have animal body system. Animals are just like us, have many different parts that works together to keep them alive. Now the organism level model of animal systems reveals how these parts functions as a team. Think of an animal body just like a well organized factory where different departments work as different components. Now, heart that pumps blood, it's like a conveyor belt, and the lungs acts as a filter. Modeling of these systems helps us to understand everything, how everything fits. Modeling of these systems helps us to see how everything fits and function together. Animals have a system that work together just like a team of superheroes. Modeling of these systems show us how a circulatory system delivers oxygen and nutrients, how the nervous system sends signals just like a communication network, and how a digestive system breaks down food like a factory. Now let's talk about plants. Plants are like nature's architect. They grow and adapt to their surroundings. Animal models, organism models of plant growth and developmental phase unveils the amazing journey plants take place from seeding to showing to their final a full grown tree structure. Imagine creating a time lapse video of plant growing. Each frame shows a different stage from a tiny shoot breaking through the soil to the plant producing flowers and animals. Models helps us study and visualize these stages just like watching a movie of a plant life. Plants go through amazing transformation as they grow, just like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Modeling of these plants' growth can show us different journey from tiny seeds to a full-grown plant. Now, let's talk about an entire ecosystem, The ecosystems are like the intricate webs where plants, animal and other organisms interact with each other. The organism modeling of ecosystem helps us to explore these connections and predict how changes might impact the life on earth. Think of an ecosystem just like a giant puzzle which is made up of plant, animal, water, soil and other things. Each pieces fit together and you can see the changes in one piece. It affects the entire puzzle. Now, modeling of this ecosystem, let us play with these pieces to see changes how that can affect the entire ecosystem. Ecosystems are like dedicated balance where every plant, animal and different components play a very important role. Modeling of these ecosystem helps us understand how changes in one part can impact the whole ecosystem. Imagine building a mini world with plants, animals and waters. By adjusting different factors just like plant levels or sunlight levels, you can see how it affects the growth of a plant. Now, why we study biological systems? Because it is having certain advantages. Let me talk about visualizing of a complex process. Some things in biology are too tiny or too fast for us to see with our naked eye. Biological models acts as imagining or using these models as a magnifying glass. Imagine you have a super microscope that let you see inside and watch the molecular dancing and working together. Biological models gives us similar peek into the microscopic world, helps us to understand how things move and interact with each other. Sometimes things like DNA replication or how this protein fold works, and these are very complicated processes and with our naked eye we can't really predict the outcomes. It's just like watching a movie. These models helps bring complex biology to life, making it easier to grasp and remember. They also help scientists to test their hypotheses. Now, these scientists, they really observe the biological phenomena and make predictions. Sometimes these predictions are true, sometimes these predictions are false. Scientists can use these models to exactly say the what is their hypothesis, if they are right or they are wrong. For example, if they are studying how disease spreads, they might create a model that simulate how the germs between two people can travel. By watching these models, they can see if their ideas matches the exact pattern in life or not. They can also use models in predicting the insides of a cell. Imagine if you could predict the what happened before it actually does. Biological models gives us a glimpse into a future that is happening to foresee how things might change in a different scenario. Imagine you are planning a trip and you can check the weather forecast to see if you will really need an umbrella or not. Similarly, scientists use models to make prediction about how things might change in different conditions. For instance, if they are studying how a plant grows, they can change the factors like sunlight or water to make predictions of the plant growth. Now, I have told you about a lot of benefits of these biological models. Let me talk about the limitations of these biological models. One factor is simplifying of a reality. Biological models are like maps. They guide us through the different complex landscapes of life. However, just like a map that can't show the minute or tiny details about a city, models also can't capture every aspect of a real organism and the processes. In these processes, you will be imagining a lot of things. So your assumptions might lead to your predictions. There are also ethical considerations. As scientists explore new territories with the models, they must also navigate the tricky ethical waters. Some experiments that works well in a models might not works well in the real life. For example, using models to explore dangerous or harmful experimentation that involves animal, they are strictly forbidden. We have to consider that we should keep into our mind of well-beings of living organisms before conducting these experiments. Another factor is biological variations. Just as you and your friends have different hair colors, animals and plants they have different characteristics. These characteristics might not fit with your models, or your prediction of your model depends upon these characteristics that can influence your predictions. There are some examples of computation models. These computation models helps us design these experiments where you will save a lot of time and resources. Imagine you have a magical computer that can create a whole new world. You can fill it with plants, animals, or even make them interact with each other. Computation models are like these, creating these digital worlds where scientists can run experiments and watch them happen inside a cell. Now, we can use this model to simulate a real life biological phenomena. Some things in biology are very hard to watch in real life, just like how disease spreads or how the genetic changes can bring together a completely new outcomes. Computation model helps us see these processes by simulating them inside a computer. Now, there are some examples of this computation model. Let's take a look into some cool things that scientists can do with these computation models. There are examples where computers have been used to understand the biology in a way we can't really see in a real life. Let me talk about the use of these models. One very essential field is evolutionary field. There are evolutionary models. I will talk about them in a very brief way. Just like Darwin Finch's model, a long time ago a scientist named Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos Island and saw different types of finches. These tiny birds showed him how the species can changes over time. Darwin Finch's models helps us understand how animals adapt to their environment. Imagine you have a bunch of toys of birds, each with a different beak shape. Now pretend they are on different island where they eat different food. Over the time, these birds with the different beaks of their food habits survives and have babies. This is like a Darwin finches, showing how bird changes to survive and thrive in different environments. There are models which predicts phylogenetical trees. Imagine you're drawing a family tree of your relatives. Now think as a bigger picture. Now draw a tree with all animals and plants on it. You can really imagine different connection to different species level. This is just like creating your own family tree. Let me briefly also talk about disease models. We will explore the world of diseases and how scientists use these models to understand the fight and prevent them. Infectious diseases models are like sneaky villains. They can make people sick. Models of infectious diseases spread are like detecting tools, helping scientists to predict how disease spread might move from one person to another person. Imagine you have bunch of toy people inside a room and you pretend one of them fell sick. By moving the toys around and playing, you can see how the sickness might spread inside the room, and over the time everybody will fall sick. There are models which talk about the cancer growth. Cancers are like rebel groups of cell that grows and spread uncontrollably. Models of cancer growth help scientists to study how tumors develop and spread inside a cell. Think of a cell like a construction workers building a tower. Cancer cells are like workers who keep building even though they are not supposed to do. Studying these models helps to predict the cancer spread, or even you can study the use of new medicines, how they can be used to treat these cancers. There are models which talk about developmental biology. Let me talk very briefly about these models. A very essential model is a model of a fruit fly. Fruit fly are continuously used in biology to study the developmental part of any living creature. Fruit fly might be very small, but they hold a big reason why we have to study the growth of an organism. The fruit fly developmental model helps us understand the stages from an egg to an adult fruit fly. Believe it or not, fruit fly are Fruit fly and humans are sharing many genes that control the developmental part. By studying how fruit flies grow from an egg to an adult, scientists can uncover the clues about how human beings develop from embryo to a fully grown individuals. Think of a fruit fly like tiny cousins of human beings. They might look different, but they use similar genetic instructions for their body. Fruit flies also have advantages of having fewer genes as compared to human beings. They also help us to study in a miniature scale about the developmental part. So before I end today's lecture, let me talk about interactive models that are need of today's generation. With advancement of in technology, specifically in a computation field, scientists are coming up with more powerful tool to explain the biological phenomena, just like a virtual reality. The virtual reality letting you to step inside the exciting world of biology. With VR, you can explore the cells and dive into the ecosystem and even witness the tiniest molecular interaction. There are interactive apps and simulations that can be used to see the network or how different components inside a cellular level or organism level can interact with each other. Engaging with these models helps students with models of these kinds helps student to analyze and realize the real world problem in a. So with these I end my today's lecture. I hope you all have learned about biological models and you will be enthusiastically using these models in your life. Thank you very much. Happy learning.